Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Well, guys, we've got a lot of news to get over today, so I'm just going to go through a couple of highlights. First of all, here we are going to have a bit of an interview with Jim Watkins of 8chan. This was given with Zak Paine over the weekend. Next, we've got a story about 1,000 people, celebrities, and more implicated in newly released documents from disgraced and deceased billionaire financier Jeffrey E.'s tranche of documents. We've also got a story that is relating to dirty cop Robert Mueller and his role in covering up the terrible attacks that happened in September of 2001. We've also got information relating to an outed spy from the special counsel's investigation. His name is Felix Sater. And finally, we are also going to be covering the deep state's ties to Italy, former Prime Minister Renzi and his relationship with the last president. And actually, one more story. We are going to go over Judicial Watch's FOIA request lawsuit where they are trying to go after Hillary Clinton for her role in the Spygate scandal. All of this and more, and we'll be right back after a brief word from my sponsor. Nothing invokes full-scale panic like Wall Street panicking. But quietly, secretly, as you watch this, within full view of the markets, this is exactly what U.S. corporate insiders are doing. They'll call it financial prepping, being cautious, protecting their assets, and all sorts of other fancy explanations. But make no mistake, this is controlled panic. CNN reported $600 million of stock has been sold each day in August. This only happened previously before the 2008 crash. Insider selling has topped $10 billion for 5 months straight. Meanwhile, gold is rocketing, and demand is at a 3-year high according to the World Gold Council. The rise in prices of gold and silver show no signs of slowing down anytime soon, and investors seeking shelter for the stocks they cashed in on are piling into precious metals, which have risen 32% since August of last year. Precious metals, gold and silver, as an IRA or 401k rollover, will keep you safe, and they'll help you ride out this latest storm as they have always done. But you need to act fast. Call Noble Gold right now at 877-646-5347 and ask them to help you move your money to safety. Or you can hit the link below and someone will contact you and you'll get the free gold and silver investment guide that has been downloaded over 50,000 times. Once again, call 877-646-5347 or hit the link below to get the free guide. All right, first, guys, we are going to get into that interview with Jim Watkins and Zak Paine. Here we have a tweet from my good friend and fellow researcher Methods talking about bringing back our favorite website and free speech platform, 8chan. Let's go ahead and listen to that.
8chan has gone offline. It's been offline for almost a full month, probably will be a full month very soon. Are there plans to bring the site back online?
Yes, I fully intend to bring it online soon, within a few days. I have been spending this time with building my own version of Cloudflare so that we don't have one central place to shut down the website so easily, because basically these giant public companies can just deplatform anybody they want. And I've received threats from big public companies. It's like commercial terrorism. It's like...
Jim Watkins building his own version of Cloudflare. You know what that means, guys? They are going to have one heck of a time bringing down this website in the near future. No more are the corporate entities that have decided what is okay for us to talk about, to learn about, to do research on. Are they going to be able to tell us any longer? 8chan is back. All right, now, those names of people in those documents released relating to Jeffrey E. As many as 1,000 people, including celebrities, are implicated in thousands of pages of court documents from a Jeffrey E. lawsuit that remains under seal. The documents, some 10,000 of them, were part of a 2015 lawsuit by Virginia Guffrey Roberts, Jeffrey's sex slave, who sued him and Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite, who many of Jeffrey's victims say was his madam. They settled their lawsuit in 2017, and the case docket was made private, keeping all the allegations secret. In August, in light of the person's arrest on human trafficking charges, an appeals court ordered that any pages of the case files which represented public interest should no longer be kept secret. Around 2,000 have been released, but thousands more are still under lock and key. On Wednesday, Judge Loretta Preska listened to lawyers for Maxwell and Roberts at a hearing in New York to determine if and how she would release any more of them. Preska did not decide on whether or not to release the remaining pages on Wednesday, but has instructed the attorneys on both sides to file written briefings about them. They have to categorize the documents into 3 types and then decide which will be released. Now, Roberts' attorneys had argued that all but the Social Security numbers and names of underage victims should be released, but the judge rejected that argument. Maxwell, who's been named as Jeffrey's madam by several of his accusers, was not in court. Her attorneys are arguing against releasing the remaining pages, claiming that the names of the 1,000 non-parties should not become public. There are literally hundreds of pages of investigative reports that mention hundreds of people, Jeffrey Pagliuca, Maxwell's attorney, told the court on Wednesday. The lawyers must now submit written briefings on how they think the remaining files should be split up and released. The hearing follows a letter to the court from a John Doe, one of the many people named, who said it would be unfair to him and others to be dragged into the public scandal engulfing Jeffrey's world. As a non-party to these proceedings, Doe lacks specific knowledge about the contents of the sealed materials, his lawyers wrote, but it's clear that these materials implicate the privacy and reputational interests of many persons other than the 2 primary parties to this action, Jeffrey and Maxwell, they added. Now, of course, these people implicated in these court documents are not going to want their information to be released, because the information here in these files implicates them in crimes that they very well could be charged in. So obviously, I think that the release of these documents is in the best interest of the public, and hopefully these will be brought out into the light of day very, very soon. We're just going to have to continue to keep a close eye, and we'll be watching here on this channel. You better believe that I'll be reporting on it. All right, now, it's come out. We've already known this, but dirty cop Robert Mueller helped Saudi Arabia cover up their involvement in the attacks in September of 2001. This is in a lawsuit. Dirty cop Robert Mueller helped the Saudi government cover up its involvement in those September attacks when he was FBI director, according to this new lawsuit. Citing former FBI investigators, investigative reporter Paul Sperry says in a new report that the FBI uncovered evidence of efforts by the Saudi government to help the hijackers in the run-up to the attacks in September of that year. Mueller, who was head of the FBI at the time, helped cover up the evidence pointing back to the Saudi embassy and Riyadh. And even worse, Mueller may have lied to Congress about what he knew about the Saudi involvement. A survivor from those September attacks, Sharon Promoli, was pulled from the rubble of the World Trade Center and is suing Saudi Arabia. He, meaning Mueller, was the master when it came to covering up the kingdom's role in that attack, she said. In October of 2001, Mueller shut down the government's investigation after only 3 weeks and then took part in the Bush administration's campaign to block, obfuscate, and generally stop anything about Saudi Arabia from being released. According to FBI investigators, dirty cop Mueller set up roadblocks for the FBI and made it easier for the Saudis to escape questioning. Now, this is from investigative Paul Sperry. He gave this to the New York Post. He says, time and again, agents were called off from pursuing leads back to the kingdom's embassy in Washington, as well as its consulate in Los Angeles, where former FBI agent Stephen Moore headed a task force on the attacks, looking into local contacts made by 2 of the 15 Saudi hijackers. Moore testified to this in an affidavit for this lawsuit. He concluded that diplomatic and intelligence personnel of Saudi Arabia knowingly provided material support to the 2 hijackers and facilitated the entire September plot. Yet he and his team were not allowed to interview them, according to the suit. In Washington, former FBI agent John Guandolo, who worked terror cases out of the Bureau's D.C. office, and then Saudi Ambassador Prince Bandar, should have been treated as a terror suspect for giving money to a woman who funded 2 of those September hijackers, but he was never questioned either. Instead, Mueller obliged that Guandolo called an outrageous request from Bandar within days of the attacks to help evacuate from the country dozens of Saudi officials, including at least one of OBL's relatives on the terror watch list. Mueller assured their safe passage to planes, using agents as personal escorts, according to FBI documents that were obtained by Judicial Watch. Agents who should have been interrogating the Saudis instead acted as their bodyguards. Absolutely incredible. In 2002, Mueller prevented agents from arresting the Saudi-sponsored al-Qaeda cleric who privately counseled the Saudi hijackers, said Raymond Fournier, an agent with the Joint Terrorism Task Force in San Diego at the time. He was responsible for vacating the arrest warrant for Anwar al-Awlaki for passport fraud, Fournier said. He even ordered agents who detained the fiend at JFK to release him into the custody of a Saudi representative, Fournier said. The FBI closed their investigation of al-Awlaki, who was allowed to leave the U.S. on a Saudi plane. Shortly thereafter, the Fort Hood shooting occurred, and al-Awlaki's fingerprints were all over that incident, said former FBI agent Michael Biasello, who helped work the Texas terror case. At the same time, Mueller removed a veteran agent from investigating a tip that an advisor to the Saudi royal family had met with some of those Saudi hijackers at his home in Sarasota, Florida, effectively killing the case, according to the lawsuit. The home was suddenly abandoned 2 weeks before those attacks in September. Mueller even tried to shut down a congressional investigation into the Saudi hijackers and their contacts in L.A. and San Diego, said Bob Graham, who led the joint inquiry as Senate Intelligence Committee chair. The strongest objections to his staff investigating visiting FBI offices there came from the FBI director itself, said Graham in a 2017 interview with Harper's Magazine. Among other things, Mueller refused their demands to question a paid FBI informant who roomed with the hijackers and even moved to a safe house where they couldn't find him, Graham said. Mueller, with the White House, redacted 28 pages detailing connections between Saudi and the September attackers from their congressional report. He also gave testimony to Congress that was, at the very least, misleading. In October 2002, in a closed-door meeting, Mueller claimed he found out about the Saudi and September attack connections only as a result of the Joint Inquiry's investigative work. Some facts came to light here, and to me, frankly, that had not come to light before. Only, Moore said, he gave Mueller daily briefings on such connections in 2001. Mueller also testified that the hijackers contacted no known terror sympathizers in the United States, even though the FBI's own case files showed that they had contact with at least 14 terror suspects and sympathizers in the U.S. prior to that attack in September, including some working for the Saudi government. In later testimony, he tried to walk this back, insisting that he had no intent to mislead. He's a villain, and an arrogant one to boot, former FBI agent Mark Walk told Paul Sperry of Robert Mueller, adding that his former boss has a long history of acting as a servant of the deep state, or the permanent D.C. ruling class. No wonder why the deep state chose Mueller as the face of the Russian collusion witch hunt. Mueller's probe acted as offense and defense. Wow, you guys, this is incredible information. We've known for a long time that Robert Mueller was a villain, and I have certainly heard tell of his involvement in these attacks in September way back in 2001, trying to cover it up. Definitely he was leading the FBI, so he was the one who was in charge of getting all those Saudis out of the country, including someone related to the person who masterminded the whole thing, OBL. But when it comes down to it, do we really know who was the mastermind behind the whole thing? There is a lot of theories talking about who was involved in this attack, what their methodology was, and why they would want to go ahead and do it. And I encourage anyone to go ahead and take a look, investigate it, and make the decision for yourself. But I think in the end, it's obvious that Robert Mueller is not a good dude. All right, and it has been revealed that Felix Sater, he is noted over 100 times in the Mueller report. It's now revealed that he is a deep state spy. Felix Sater is a deep state Democrat with ties to the Clintons and the Mueller gang. He's mentioned over 100 times in the Mueller report, but not one mention referred to his connections with deep state Democrats. Now damning evidence has been uncovered proving Sater is nothing but a deep state spy. As we reported in June, the far left and dishonest Democrat leader Adam Schiff announced that he had invited Sater to provide testimony before Congress. Sater eventually did not testify, as Schiff and his party realized that his testimony would be detrimental to their Russia collusion sham. A few weeks before Schiff's announcement on Sater, far-left BuzzFeed released another bogus report stating President Trump's attorney Michael Cohen was following President Trump's orders to lie about an unsupported story on Russia. Mueller's team, in an attempt to prevent a leak investigation into its operations, came out 24 hours later and said the story was false. Now, we know that the entire junk report was provided to BuzzFeed by Clinton and Mueller lackey Felix Sater. Wow. Here we have an embedded tweet from Undercover Huber. He says, Felix Sater, really? House Dems have scheduled him to testify on March 14th, 2019. Prepare for a lot of smoke and mirrors, but it will be really yet another nail in the collusion coffin. And that was back in March of 2019. Obviously, he never showed up. Paul Sperry reported that the individual behind the BuzzFeed fake news story lying about President Trump was none other than Sater, a deep state dirtbag with close ties to the Clintons and Mueller, Mueller and his gang of crooks. This is from January 24th of 2019, talking about the fact that Deep Throat source is Felix Sater. He is crooked, crooked, crooked. Sperry was right. Sater was seen in pictures with Bill Clinton. That was above. Sater has also been pictured with far-left media reporters pushing the Trump-Russia collusion fairy tale. Right here, we can see him getting chummy at dinner with Rachel Madcow. Most shocking is Sater's connections to the Clintons and the Mueller gang of corrupt and criminal attorneys and investigators. It was reported that Sater's connections began in 1998. Sater pled guilty to racketeering in December of 98, but instead of being sentenced, Sater, like 16 other defendants in the case, signed a cooperation agreement with the U.S. government, and his entire case file was sealed. Signing Sater's cooperation agreement for the Department of Justice was Andrew Weissman, none other than Andrew Weissman, of course, then an assistant U.S. attorney and now a key member of the special counsel's team. Mueller himself would be the FBI director for most of the time that Sater served as a source. The U.S. attorney who oversaw Sater's pump and dump case was none other than Loretta Lynch, later the Attorney General under President Barry Obama. While the Senate was considering her confirmation, Senator Orrin Hatch asked Lynch about how her office handled Sater's fraud case. In a written response, she said, "The defendant in question, Felix Sater, provided valuable and sensitive information to the government during the course of his cooperation, which began in or about December 1998. For more than 10 years, he worked with prosecutors providing information crucial to national security and the conviction of over 20 individuals, including those responsible for committing massive financial fraud and members of La Cosa Nostra. For that reason, his case was initially sealed. To the government, he was no longer Felix Sater. In public, he was referred to as John Doe, while in hundreds of pages of FBI interview reports, his name was the quarterback." Oh, he's taking it home. None of this stopped the Mueller gang from using Sater as a material witness in their Russia collusion sham. In the Mueller report, Sater is mentioned in the text and footnotes more than 100 times. The Mueller team introduces Sater in the report as a New York-based real estate advisor. In the late summer of 2015, the Trump Organization received a new inquiry about pursuing a Trump Tower project in Moscow. In approximately September 2015, Felix Sater, a New York-based real estate advisor, contacted Michael Cohen, then executive vice president of the Trump Organization and special counsel to Donald J. Trump. Not once in the Mueller report does the Mueller gang refer to Sater's connections with the Clintons, Loretta Lynch, with Andrew Weissman, the suspected drafter of the Mueller report. Now, here's an update from just earlier. More evidence proving Sater is a deep state spy. An incredible string of tweets by Monsieur America shows without a doubt that Sater is a deep state spy. The most damning piece of evidence is more than 100 tweets in this thread is a video from Sater's rabbi where he claims to have been at a presentation where Sater was given an award by the deep state intelligence agencies. Sater may have used this to prove to one of his contacts that he had connection to the deep state. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that video.
Fine day, 2.5 years ago, Felix invited me to join him at a private closed-door session in the Federal Building in New York. Only his immediate family members were allowed in, and he'd gotten special clearance for his rabbi to be there as well. I get there, and to my amazement, I see dozens of U.S. intelligence officers from all of the various three-letter intelligence agencies of this country, including some I had never even known existed. They're taking turns standing up one after the other, offering praise for Felix, praising him as an American hero for his work and his assistance in the highest levels of this country's national security interests.
Well, that just about does it for me. I'm good listening to that. Corrupt Representative Adam Schiff will never have Sater in front of Congress. Never. The entire Clinton-Mueller cabal is now in pieces. More and more lies are unveiled in the Democrats' attempted coup to remove President Trump from office. It's like peeling back layers of an onion. A dirty, rotten, stinking onion. Well, it sure looks to me like Felix Sater is a deep state stooge. Of course they're not going to bring him forward because people in the know would then be forced to ask Felix about his relationships to the intelligence agencies. And maybe then he might be forced to reveal himself about how he was involved in the coup to take down President Trump. And it just does not surprise me. Every single day we learn that someone else was involved in this coup plot, someone else with connections to the intelligence agency and the clowns in America Now, we're going to go across the pond and we're going to talk about even more connections to the deep state and how people in other countries tried to take down President Trump. All right, now Giulio Occhionero brought this to my attention the other day. Obama's deep state has ties to Italians, and their attempts to set up Trump are finally coming to light. This right here, my friends, is all about the silent ones. If you want some background on this, then go ahead and go back and check out my reporting on Giulio Occhionero, his experience, and his comments about who the silent ones are and what they've done. The recent firings of top Italian spies were likely related to Barry and a plot to set up candidate and President Trump in a Hillary email scandal. We first reported this in May. And now it appears this story is finally receiving sunlight. In May, Italian Prime Minister Conte asked for the resignations of 4 top intelligence officials after his calls with President Donald Trump. After that, it was reported that the recent removal of these top Italian intelligence ministers from their positions as top spies in the government had been uncovered. Our story started in January 2017 when Computer World wrote about alleged crimes committed by Italian Giulio Occhionero, a real Renaissance man. Giulio is a great guy. The Tuesday arrest of Giulio Occhionero and his sister Francesca Maria, they were framed, I should add, has brought to light what appears to be the biggest and highest profile hacking of institutional and corporate accounts ever reported in Italy. The siblings have been planting the Pyramid Eye remote access Trojan on computers using a spear phishing technique over several years, according to the arrest order. And none of that's true. They attacked at least 18,000 high-profile targets, including former Prime Ministers Matteo Renzi and Mario Monti, President of European Central Bank Mario Draghi, as well as employees and heads of various ministries, including Internal Affairs, Treasury, Finance, and Education. But Giulio Occhionero claimed that he and his sister Francesca Maria were set up. A piece reported by Federico Punzi, writing in The Atlantico, notes their denials and more. Occhionero complained to the prosecutor of the Republic of Perugia and wrote to the U.S. Congress and the FBI. In fact, there are a number of contradictions and suspicious circumstances in the case. Occhionero provided the letter that he claims he sent to U.S. Congress and the FBI. Occhionero claims, and it's reported, that members of Italian intelligence were approached by Hillary Clinton, the Obama administration, and the deep state in order to frame President Trump by planting evidence on American servers to force Trump to step down from office. In other words, members of Italian intelligence found a target in Occhionero, a Republican sympathizer who had 2 servers for his company, Westland Securities, and they were located in America. One was in Washington State and the other was in West Virginia. Now, the plan was for the Italian intelligence deep state hacks to hack into these servers, plant classified emails from Hillary's server inside his servers on American soil, and then alert the FBI. The FBI would then raid these locations, discover these emails, investigate the link between these servers and President Trump, and then they would force President Trump to resign. Occhionero believes that Barry Obama and the former leader of Italy, Matteo Renzi, worked together on this plan, and he provides reports of their meetings in Italy before the 2016 election and in early 2017. There are now rumors that the Italian government covered up its involvement in spying on candidate Trump's team and efforts to plant information on Occhionero's servers by labeling the actions state secrets. Occhionero and his sister have been investigated and currently are for Article 256 of the Italian Criminal Code, which is connected to the act of entering into knowledge or possession of documents covered by state secrecy classification. This is how the Renzi government covered it up. It's also not the first time this has occurred. As we previously reported, President Obama and his clown director John Brennan ignored a European clown agent's pleas for help and left her to rot in an Italian prison. Lucky for her, Donald Trump was elected president, for which she is eternally grateful because he got her out. The former agent Sabrina De Sousa was working in Milan as an undercover clown officer in 2003 when U.S. and Italian intelligence agents abducted radical Egyptian cleric Osama Mustafa Hassan Nassar, also known as Abu Omar, and transported him to his native Egypt for interrogation. Omar was released eventually for lack of evidence against him, and years later in 2008, De Souza, along with 25 other Americans, were convicted in absentia on kidnapping and other charges related to the abduction of Omar. Several were pardoned, and not one did time in prison. The Italians also convicted Omar in absentia for criminal association with the purposes of international terrorism and sentenced him to 6 years in prison. De Souza, however, faced 4 years in an Italian prison for the abduction, which she claims she was not even a part of. Eventually, after assisting distance from President Trump, her sentence was reduced and she has been able to avoid prison in Italy. President Barry Obama and his director of the clowns, John Brennan, just left her out to dry. D'Souza told us that all the Italian government officials on trial said that they could not speak because they were not allowed to do so, as the government had imposed state secrets. They were all granted immunity because, get this, their relationship with foreign intel services was a state secret. All the Americans were convicted. The Italians and the Americans were involved in clandestine and illegal activities in both the 2003 rendition of Omar and then during the 2016 election cycle in illegally setting up the Trump campaign. They also were involved together in 2005 when then FBI Director Robert Mueller worked with Italy to cover up each other's actions related to the weapons of mass destruction hoax that was happening in Iraq. Now, it looks like illegal actions between Italy and the U.S. are being covered up again. It's no wonder that Renzi and Obama were so close, best buddies. Now, here's an update. Giulio tweeted today an update to his defense and accusations of the Obama and Renzi scandal. A video on the internet is now out explaining the Italian connection we first reported in May. President Trump's attorney, Jay Sekulow, is now involved in this case. All right, guys, so this video is actually 7 minutes long. I'm going to leave a link to this in the description of the video or the pinned comment below, and you can go ahead and check it out yourself. But this is a great video. It really details exactly what took place and how guilty these people are. So check it out. We know that Five Eyes, we've been told many times by our favorite Anon that Five Eyes was an integral part of the coup to take down President Trump. So please check out this important video and go follow Giulio as well, because he is putting out great information on a daily basis. All right, guys, and finally, a federal judge has blasted the State Department lawyers in the Hillary email case, warning that no FOIA exemption for political expedience exists. Conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch on Friday released transcripts from their hearing on August 22nd, where Judge Royce Lamberth granted new discovery and witnesses on Hillary's email case. Judge Lamberth, a Reagan appointee, blasted State Department lawyers who were defending Hillary Clinton, who were working to cover up her email scandal. He said there is no FOIA exemption for political expedience, nor is there one for bureaucratic incompetence, Judge Lamberth said after a warning to the government lawyers. Judge Lamberth also lambasted the State Department lawyers when they tried to stop Judicial Watch from gathering more evidence in Hillary's case. Now, from Judicial Watch, in the beginning of their oral arguments, lawyers for the State Department wrongfully stated that Judicial Watch could no longer continue their discovery. The court stopped their arguments, saying that Judicial Watch can continue to find more evidence in this case. The State Department said, "It is, of course, Judicial Watch's burden to explain to Your Honor why there has been good cause to reopen discovery now that discovery has closed in this case." The court said, "Well, I didn't close discovery, so your premise is wrong." State Department says, "Fair enough, Your Honor. Whether you want to call it closed or not, it is still," the court says, "I didn't close it. I said I would have a status after they took this initial discovery, and that's what I'm doing today. I didn't close discovery." You don't want to go up against a judge. That's dangerous stuff. State Department says, "That's right, Your Honor, but it is still Judicial Watch's," and the court interrupts, "so they don't need any good cause." State Department says whether, and then the court interrupts again. "Today, the good cause continues from whether or not state was acting in good faith. And I'll tell you, everything they've discovered in this period raises serious questions about what the HE double hockey sticks the State Department is doing here." Wow, tough words, Judge Lamberth. Judge Lamberth detailed how the State Department spent 3 months from November 2014 trying to make this case disappear. And then after discovering the State Department's actions and omissions, now we know more, but we have even more questions than answers, so I won't hold it against Judicial Watch for expanding their initial discovery request now. Judicial Watch was recently granted 7 additional depositions and 3 interrogatories related to Hillary's email scandal. Hillary Clinton and her aide-turned-lawyer Cheryl Mills were given 30 days to respond to Judicial Watch's request for a deposition. Judicial Watch uncovered new information about the Clinton email scandal that a federal court agrees requires more answers. "We share the court's annoyance with DOJ lawyers who continue to defend the indefensible. It is beyond disturbing that the state and Justice Departments would continue to try to protect Hillary Clinton and cover up her email scandal. President Trump should order the agencies to cooperate in uncovering the truth," and that was stated by Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, Big Gun Tom Fitton. Oh man, you guys, this is great news. The the judge is not having any of this hanky-panky from the State Department and the DOJ. I am so happy to hear that they have been granted an expansion of their discovery because, like he said, we now have more questions than answers. There is so much that needs to come forward and be brought into the light of day, and Judicial Watch is doing incredible work in this case and in many others. All right, guys, I think that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.